Hello and welcome to Speaking of Conflict, the podcast where we talk about intercultural communication and conflict resolution. And today we will focus on intercultural communication because Lisa brought us something. Can you tell us more about it?
Okay, I will say something to you and then you need to guess what the subject is about today.
Okay.
All right, so your outfit right now, like you really look like a girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very girly color. So what do you think we're talking about today? Girls? Colors?
Gender roles?
Gender roles? No.
Prejudices?
Prejudices? Yes. It's like stereotypes and prejudice. So what I just told you right now would be, for example, just a stereotype, not particular prejudice. There's a difference we will discuss now.
Stereotypes, prejudice, and us versus them. Have you ever met someone who completely shattered your expectations? Or did you realize that your first impression of them was completely wrong? If so, you've experienced the limits of stereotypes. It all starts with categorization. Every second, your brain processes an incredible amount of information. To handle this complexity, it naturally looks for patterns and organizes what it sees into categories. Imagine walking into a crowded room for just a few seconds. You probably wouldn't remember every single detail about every person. Instead, though, your brain would quickly notice certain characteristics, such as age, gender, appearance, culture cues, or other things that seem familiar or unfamiliar. This ability helps us make sense of the world around us. It allows us to recognize patterns, make decisions, and navigate everyday life more efficiently. Categorizing people is therefore not the problem. It is a normal part of how our brain works. The challenge begins when we start assuming that a category tells us everything about a person. This is where stereotypes come in. A stereotype is a simplified belief about a group of people. We begin to attach certain characteristics to everyone within that group. For example, we might think pink is for girls and blue is for boys. Older people are not good with technology, or people from this culture are always direct. Some of these ideas might seem harmless at first, but they can become problematic when we assume that they tell us something about a person. Not every girl likes pink, not every older person struggles with technology, and no individual can be fully described by the group they belong to. When stereotypes become connected to emotions and evaluations, they can develop into prejudice. While stereotypes are about what we think, prejudice is about what we feel. It describes the emotions and attitudes we attach to people based on the groups they belong to. And let's be honest, when we talk about prejudice, we are often referring to negative feelings such as mistrust, discomfort, or rejection toward others. When these feelings influence how we behave, they can lead to discrimination. This can mean excluding someone, making unfair assumptions about their abilities, or treating them differently because of the group they belong to. So the next time you catch yourself making an assumption about someone, try to look beyond the category and get curious about the person behind it, because people are always more complex than the labels we give them.
First of all, I guess everyone knows stereotypes. Stereotypes would be like, oh, girls wear pink and boys wear blue. Stereotype is all Germans are very direct, or
blonde girls are stupid.
Yeah, we have like in German it's even an old category, I think, like
a
jokes
joke
about
category,
blonde people, not blonde people, blonde women. Yeah. So anyway, why is that important? I guess stereotypes is we all have them. We all play with them sometimes, but they can also be kind of the first step into something more negative, which would be then prejudices and then later on discrimination, kind of. So why or what is kind of the base of all stereotypes? It's kind of, I don't know if
I mean, it's kind of categorizing people, right?
Perfect, yes.
Like if I think of stereotype, I think it comes from the wish to make life easier because maybe Germans especially, but generally people like to have rules and frameworks where they put people into boxes because this makes decisions easier, right?
Yes.
I will need to decide whether someone is dangerous or not dangerous. Someone is helpful, a friend, or I don't know.
First of all, our brain gives us information, right? The brain filters more information than we can actually reflect on, first of all. But our brain will always wants us to survive in every situation. When you not look at today's world, but let's say hundreds and thousands of years back, right? So we need to know, do I know this? Is that familiar to me? Is that a potential threat or not, right? So our brain just gives us all the categories. Just imagine, for example, you enter a room. I give you 20 seconds to enter a room full of people. You just have to observe. And then you come out of this room after 20 seconds and I ask you who was in the room. You would be able to tell me, are there women? Are there men? Are there old people? Are there young people? Are there people that look slim? Are there people that look rather curvy? Are they short? Are they tall?
How were they dressed? Was it more like fancy or easygoing?
Exactly.
More like formal or informal?
Yes.
This was probably also something I would recognize.
That everyone would recognize. Like this, at least like where's if I would ask you, you could probably name me 5 categories that you just discovered. So our brain just first of all gives us just information. Then out of this, we can maybe, or we actually do, create stereotypes. We would maybe think like, out of this group, I can already figure out maybe some behavior, or if you see people that are dressed fancy, and that would be only, I don't know, people that are blonde or something, you could create a stereotype that all the blonde people are dressed fancy. Like this, super quickly. And you have already kind of that thought, that belief, and you carry it with you, right?
And also the other way around, right? Like if I'm in this group of people and you would ask me, what did you see? I would also try to get the vibes of the people, I would say. Like if they dress more formal, I would assume that they are more in the business context. Or if it's more like a wedding context, depends on what kind of style they are dressing like formally, right? But I would also make assumptions of what they do, why they are there, and why they're into like why they are communicating, why did they met together. So I think all of this would also be all underlying assumptions I would read into the room.
Yes, you actually made a good
power dynamics even. Sorry.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that's so our brain, first of all, just wants to give us useful information. And if we don't have enough information, it just gives us some ideas, some suggestions, like you just said. So your brain's like, oh, maybe they are like this, or maybe they are like this, or maybe this and this and this. So stereotypes are that are then get developed are more kind of a simplified belief, right? So you get maybe one idea and then you oversimplify it and make it to a whole group. For example, you meet one person, you make a stereotype about it, and let's say one remark could be a nationality, and then you think like, yeah, all of them are like this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one belief that you see a person that you oversimplify a whole group. I mean, we all kind of know some national stereotypes. That's what I said before. For example, Germans are always on time. That would be like a stereotype we are facing quite often, right? I mean, it comes also, stereotypes are always built throughout the context of history of some society. Structures or so on. Maybe back then it was more on time. Germans were more on time than maybe now. I don't know how punctual that we still are. But when we just like to summarize, it's just stereotypes, oversimplified beliefs that we then, and then it gets a little bit critical, just put on a whole group of people that we might have not even met before.
Yeah.
Right? So
because we make decisions also based on previous experience, right? If we have a specific experience, you will transfer that to...
Yeah. And it's always kind of, the stereotypes always kick in when you have less experience. So you might have one experience, but that actually could never like form your whole opinion about a group, right? But since you only have that one experience, your brain will do that because it wants to prepare you for what might be coming, right? So yeah, but maybe a question for you. Do you think like that stereotypes are in itself like problematic?
Depending on from which perspective I'm looking. Because I think politically and publicly, stereotypes are discussed in a negative way. Like, if you read something about stereotypes, it's very probable that people will talk negative about that. It's something bad. But I personally don't think it's bad because sometimes we make jokes about it, which is just so funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just some truth in it. I mean, yes, we make an assumption from a few people to a whole group, but if I know it could be wrong and I might change my opinion, there will be also so many moments where I feel like this is exactly true. I mean, stereotypes also come from something, right? It's not out of the blue.
Yeah.
So they come from something, and I think there's often also truth in it. But it depends also on the maybe the setting where you apply it.
Yeah.
So I think if people say Germans are on time, no one feels offended, all is fine. But if I would say something like, I don't know, person from Ghana is always late, then we would already be in like probably more the racist discussion. So I think depending on the framing, we put something as just given or put it into it would enter also a different discussion, basically.
Yes. I mean, I would agree with you there because it's like this, the stereotype itself, is at first just a belief, a thought. Like, for example, Germans are on time. Like you said, no one will feel offended regarding this. You could say either like, oh, I agree or disagree or whatsoever. And of course, it depends what the stereotype is because like on time is literally more positive connotated.
As for, yeah, but it could be also be, depending on the setting, it could be also negative, right?
Yeah,
like
of course.
if I'm, I don't know, at a party in a country where the culture is like you come 1-2 hours late, and you would say Germans are always on time, it will probably not have a positive connotation. But because there is the value in our surrounding that on time is something positive, we think it's positive. Does it also depends on who you're talking to?
Yeah, exactly. But I think this is where the difference comes to prejudice, because stereotype at first just a thought, right? Just a thought without much feelings regarding this.
Yeah.
And the prejudice goes then a step further and connects the emotion, the attitude, and the judgment regarding this. It changes from like, I think the group is like this, the Germans are like this. It's more like I either feel positively or negatively about this group because of that, right? So it kind of like, prejudice describes how open, how comfortable you feel, how trusting you are with that particular group. You could have a stereotype about a person and then have a negative experience, and then you feel like confirmed in your opinion that this whole group is like this, right? So it can quickly become kind of a, I know this group is like that, instead of, oh yeah, that's just a stereotype, but I don't know if that's true.
So it's basically, you know how in psychology you have the confirmation bias?
Yeah.
So basically you have the stereotype and then the confirmation bias is sneaking in.
Yeah.
And then because of the confirmation bias, you tend maybe to make wrong assumptions.
Yeah.
And are less likely to change your belief just because there is this bias.
I mean, it doesn't have to be always the step. You could also just not know any stereotypes and just jump right through the prejudice, I guess, like especially when you look at racist structures as racism itself. But when we like we're doing it now, kind of like a step, then you can have in mind the stereotypes, the prejudice, and how far away is discrimination now because of the thoughts and the behavior we have. So let's think of stereotype as the thought, the belief. The prejudice is the feeling and the judgment to it, and the discrimination is then the behavior. So out of that, we could exclude people, we could judge their abilities, right? Because when we hear, for example, some people from a country are lazy, then we just think, I don't want her in the team. I know already she comes from a place where all people are lazy, and this is then becoming action. This becomes then a problem to all the people that are in the group, because you get maybe less opportunities, or people don't want to talk to you.
And then it's a prejudice.
And then it becomes discrimination, because it's an action,
Ah,
right?
okay.
Like the prejudice is your own feeling through this, your judgment. You say, all Germans are rude. I know them, all Germans are rude. Then you would like, I don't want her in my team, she's rude. She comes from Germany, she's my neighbor now. I don't talk to her because I met once a German. It's not good, right? They're all like this. They're all like bad people, kind of. So when you think about these steps, I think it helps, because back in the day, I also was like, what is the difference between stereotypes and prejudice? What actually is this? Because we know funny stereotypes, we laugh about them. And then actually, when does it get problematic? But I think it helps to think about, one is just a thought, just the concept. The other one is the feeling to it. Like, do I really do I also distance myself from you? I think like I'm better than you, right? Because it is kind of like, I don't know much about where you're from, but I already know I don't like it. There we also have a lot of media, political influence, of course, that kind of shape your view on particular people, on particular groups. What that leads to as well, or what we can explain why we have that, is the social identity theory. I don't know if you know that. So it's basically saying that people gain a part of their identity from the groups they belong to. So from the group, it could be a national group, you could get the sense of belonging, of security, of connection. You feel that. You could have that with your football team, with your hometown. It doesn't matter. Like we talked about culture, right? Let's say you create just a group, and that makes one part of your identity. And so it's kind of strong. And that creates kind of this us. We are the group. This is us. And what we actually do then is we create as well a they, a them, the others, right? And this we do in comparison to our own group. So when you look at racist structures, let's say Germany, the Germans, and then people who come to the country from other countries, right? And then they are them, these other people.
Yeah,
and we
it's
can
differentiating between different groups, basically.
Exactly, but in the sense of that we are looking at our strengths in the inside group, and we are looking at them with the differences they are to our group, our great group, right? So we immediately kind of judge and create an us versus them.
But them always means like lowering them, or could be also...
Yeah. It's when we think about, okay, this is maybe more looking negatively at what happens, but it's kind of a baseline for a lot of society problems, I would say, because it's a lot of always an us and them, the ones that are here before, the ones that are coming, or all of the different
But based
concepts.
on the theory, is the them always negative?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will explain now why.
Okay, why? Yeah, because I think like sometimes I also don't feel related to a group, but I still might admire them or like them or think they are cool.
Okay, but we're talking now in the sense of if you are not able to see that.
Okay.
Right? Like, so it's not like you all go through the process and you think like this, but the tendency that you end up doing this unconsciously as well is pretty high. Right? So, okay, so the base concept of this is the ethnocentrism when we look at cultures. Ethnocentrism is literally centrism is like, you think you're the center of the world, your world is normal. Your culture is the most normal, right? So you think our way is normal, their way is strange, our approach makes sense, their approach makes no sense, right? Like if it's regarding communication styles, is it about traditions, about ideas, what's polite or not? Basically, we are not able to see that what we always say, that our perspective is just one out of many, but we just say our perspective is the perspective. I mean, when you look at the world, for example, you could be very critical regarding Europe and the West, who has this quite strongly. When we look now politically, we think our way is the way. This is how we treat the world over centuries, right? Like We know the best how democracies should look like. Please no, I talk a little bit in sarcasm. Like we have an idea, this is how a good country looks like.
The theory.
Yes.
Is it just generally assuming, because I think there are studies that show that we have the tendency to think what is familiar to us is better. Is this basically the baseline of theory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's we know what we are, right? We know what our surrounding looks like, and then we encounter people that so whatever, if it's the skin color, if it's the ethnicity, if it's just the national culture or whatever, that's at first seems strange to us, right? We don't know it. And then we can decide, don't we like it because we don't know it? Or I don't know it, I actually am interested in figuring it out. But we talk more about this if you don't figure it out, if you just stay on this close side of your own group and just need that to say, we are better than the people that come from other countries to our country. We work better. This is our country, or whatever it is, like all of the different kind of concepts. And there is also kind of like a solution model in its sense, and it's the contact hypothesis. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. It's pretty self-explaining. It's kind of like meaningful contact between people can reduce prejudice. And that means, for example, let's say...
Okay, so if you have an emotional social connection, you will be less likely to create prejudices than to a person I have basically no... So the stranger on the street, it's easier for me to have prejudices than to you.
Yes, exactly. So, for example, let's say you have a certain picture of Muslims and you don't like it and you think they're all bad people and they're all terrorists or whatever is in the world as a prejudice against Muslim people as well. And then you're like, no, they're dangerous. But then you live in a house and there are two families where you find out they are Muslim people, different nationalities, doesn't matter. And then you're like, I don't like them. I know how they are. I don't want to talk to them. But then one of these family always greets you, invites you to have a dinner with them. And then you kind of say like, okay, then I go there and have dinner. And then you actually enjoy yourself. And you're like, oh, these people are very nice, right? That can be a chance that you then say, okay, my whole picture about the whole group is not so accurate because now I know one of this group and it's not fitting. But of course, what also can happen is a little bit the danger to say, but this person is an exception. I know them.
Isn't there also the option of that you basically have a positive bias? That now let's say I meet someone who's super nice to me and I'm like, oh, they are all so nice. And if someone else has a negative experience, I will kind of not take it seriously because I made so many positive experience. So I will neglect basically another experience because is it also happening? Like basically the bias the other way around?
Yeah, it's happening, but it's of course not so tragically, right? Like in itself. I think it would be maybe more count as a positive stereotype.
Okay.
Because you just, I don't know, I feel like prejudice is Vorurteil in German. I think it's more negative connotated. It's also really depending on how the words are in different languages. But for me, that would count more as a positive stereotype. You made one experience and you like, it was all great, and then you walk through the world like thinking it's all great. But with that attitude, you probably don't harm anyone, like from that group. If another person has another experience, that person can say, hey, Teresa, but that's
from
not
that
true.
Group, not, but I may harm the person who I'm not taking seriously.
Yeah.
Who made a negative experience and I'm not taking this person seriously and maybe this person actually needs help or something, what the experience is, right?
I mean, I think in generally speaking, besides that topic, it's always important to take other people's opinions serious, right? You can have a good experience in a restaurant, for example, and I have a bad one, and I would love you to listen to me if I'm
exactly
saying
that's
this
the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's a positive stereotype, but it's not great.
Yeah.
Or better than negative stereotype. Stereotype is still stereotype.
Yeah.
Maybe
At the end, it's just a thought that is not particular based in statistics of all the people you met.
Yeah.
Right? It's just your brain telling you a simple little fact, and you just think like, okay, now I know everything and everyone. Every Japanese person is great because I met one Japanese guy and he was super polite and nice, right? Like, I mean, that's also, I think what we learn from this is take that first information for yourself, like any other experience, but then also differentiate. And that's maybe also, that is a super interesting aspect, I think, psychologically, is in our own group, we see a lot of differences. Right? In others' group, we don't see as many differences. That is also like from the content-wise, but also as well from the looks-wise. It's very, very interesting. So we see differences, both of us, like how different we are, and we meet another white German person and we can see all the differences, right? But from another group who is maybe not German and not white, they would like, they're all the same. And that happens besides like the racist structure that of course is doing that on purpose. So, like a lot of times, that is a system that works everywhere. For example, when I was in Mexico, I was with my partner there, and there was a young woman. I could not talk to her. She was just speaking Spanish, but she was laughing to my partner and saying like, it's so strange. All white people look the same for me, because she met me and like she was like, I cannot see the differences in white people, because I think like what we often have is that this is just put on as a racist view, because we have that, of course, with white people looking at black or brown people saying they look all the same, but it is it's just a general psychological effect, because of course the longer we are surrounded with people, we see more differences.
And we train ourselves
to see the differences. But I think that's kind of interesting to think about stereotype and prejudice too, to say like, okay, for us we see a lot of differences, but this strange group that I don't know anything about them, they must be all the same. And it's the thought of oversimplifying, of getting a quick idea about something. And there you see how misleading stereotypes can be, right? They give you first an information, but they should never be the end solution kind of regarding this. So when you, with this contact hypothesis, that you meet people and there's a chance to kind of reduce the prejudice, it is not always working. Right? It's not always like a guarantee that this can change your prejudice, especially when you make like a bad experience on top. But it's mostly successful, for example, when the status is equal. For example, people meet as equals, could be in the workplace, right? It's my colleague. So you're already there and share something together. You share your work together. You appreciate someone's work, their skills, or just common goals, which I think could be like a perfect example in the workplace too, right? We work together, we have one mission. It's easier for me to see that person more clearly, more deeper kind of, than just like, the stranger across the street, he must be like this and this and this. Then as well, cooperation, which I think goes all kind of in the example of the workplace, and the institutional support, which could be like schools and workplaces where people are just together and spending time. Maybe a question to you: do you ever like felt kind of, where you figured out that you had like a stereotype, and you kind of were like, oh, I thought that person was like this because of this tiny information you had, and it turned out that I was totally wrong?
I mean, there are so many prejudices against us because we went to the Walter School.
Oh yeah, that's
so
true.
Probably we have that. I think we just don't process us in a way that we have it present. But there were so many. Oh, you can dance your name, you can do this.
Yeah, but I mean like the other way around, that you have with other people, like where you kind of were like, oh, I thought I had a totally different picture of that person, and now I realize how wrong I was. Or where you kind of felt like, or maybe when you went abroad and you kind of had a picture how people were like should be because of maybe the media, maybe the movies you consumed, or stuff you heard, like the kind of more common stereotypes that are flowing around?
I don't remember something traveling. I don't know if it's a stereotype, but I think I had situations where I thought someone is like a person is not interesting or not funny or very serious. Actually, I had a very, very close friend of mine. First time when we met, I thought she's so serious. She tries to be perfect. She's boring, kind of that. And she thought, oh my God, Teresa, she's so crazy. She cannot take her seriously. She's so strange.
Yeah.
And then they figured out we are quite similar.
No, it's funny.
Both.
Yeah.
But the moment where we met, the setting, we were dressed differently, we behaved differently, and we had completely different expectations of the event. That's why we also behaved and dressed and everything differently. And the first time we saw each other, I thought, oh my God, and she thought, oh my God. And at the end, it turns out we are very similar. We are different in some ways, of course, but and there's also the tendency maybe of me liking to even meet more people, more colorful, a little bit more action, and she's maybe a little bit less, doing a little less action or something, and maybe a little bit better structured than me. But on the baseline, like the 90%, we are very similar. I think it's very small where we're different. And I think this is something, but I can't really tell the stereotype that I had.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
it was
maybe-
more like I thought, oh, she's like only goal oriented, she cannot have fun.
Yeah.
But it's not the stereotype where I feel like those kind of people are always like this,
Yeah.
you know?
Because the group was basically missing. You didn't
Yeah, there
say
was no
like-
group I could assign her
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
But I must have assigned her to some kind of group, because otherwise I wouldn't assume
Yeah.
by the way she acts and dress
Yeah.
that she is a certain way.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think like it refers to maybe even before the stereotyping, just the information that you have. Either you already have a knowledge of a group, is like, okay, she looks like one of the group I have in mind. But if you don't have the group, you do the first step and you're like, okay, she's dressed like this. So I categorize her in that and that, which is already categorizing.
Yeah.
But without maybe having like a whole group there. But it is super funny, right? So you had like zero knowledge about her, but your brain already pumps you with information. Like it's like, okay, she must be like this because look at her clothes. She must be like this because look at her behavior.
Yeah.
And like this and this and this. I think it's important for us to think about this concept, because at the end of the day, our brain provides us with information, and we then kind of fail a little bit what to do with the information. Because we will do another subject regarding racism and discrimination, but I wanted to kind of make this introduction of the topic, because the first step, the stereotyping and the categorizing, or maybe the categorizing, is not as problematic. It's just information. But then how we reflect on that, how we deal with this, what we're going to do with the information, and how we then put it into action, then how we're going to treat people, because that's the effect, right? Do I make plays in a bus when I see a person regarding a certain group that I have a stereotype or even prejudice, right? And that person will feel the effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so,
I get it.
So it's immediately kind of an act. It's
An
kind of
interaction. It's already an interaction without the interaction, kind of.
Yeah, you already kind of assume a lot, and when you don't reflect, you get really, really quickly in some bad behavior or racist behavior parts of, or just rude behavior, or like you have an impact kind of with the thoughts you have in the behavior. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do, is a little bit of an introduction before we get into the very heavy stuff. But yeah, take that please as just the baseline we all have.
And before we leave or end, are there like special situations or maybe situations or events where like be especially careful about your stereotypes you have? Or is there something where like I would advise you to do this when you have this stereotype? It's like two questions.
I mean, I think like there are different kind of seriousness in groups, right? For example, when you talk about sports teams, put all the stereotypes out there that there are. Like it's not as drastic, right? You might have...
It doesn't hurt anyone.
It doesn't hurt anyone. For example, there are stereotypes about, I'm sorry to say, Bayern Munich fans, and there are stereotypes about Cologne fans, Cologne FC Cologne fans, right? That's just... There might be stereotypes, but they're not harming anyone. They're not an influence in the society if they get a job or a place to live or whatever, right? But I think I would be more careful, or especially careful, when we talk about nationalities, ethnics, religion, and skin color. So because that is the ones that leads to all the discriminative structures we have, and the racist structures we have, that are other ideologies are built on that to create them, but they are more drastic. They are hurting people, they are hurting whole nations, or the human rights that these people have. So I think, like, be always careful when you judge a big group that is, I mean, of course, football fans also identify as football fans, but I would say a religion is, or like your national culture or whatever, your local culture is more part of your identity, you're also more vulnerable in if anyone says something more critical regarding this, right? So I think, like, everywhere where it's hurting at the end human rights, you have to be very careful. And there should be a motivation in reflecting and actually to think, like, hang on, why do I think about these people like this? Or I have that picture about Muslim people, even though I don't know any Muslim people. So that should be like the first thought, to think like, okay, hang on, why do I think like this? Maybe because all the media is portrayed like this. It really depends where you live, how's the media, how's your environment, your friends, how are they talking about this? All this shapes your opinion on people you don't know. If you would know them, you would anyway think differently, right? So it's kind of like a gray zone, but then it's quickly turning into
red zone.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Or pink zone, but pink is
zone today for me.
Yeah, pink zone today.
I'm today, you pink zone.
Yeah, we take that. So
the black zone,
the black zone and the pink zone, and everything in between. So please, guys, think about that. Maybe try to figure out about what group you have certain stereotypes, and take away the pressure, because we need to ask ourselves the question. Like, the question is not, am I racist or not? It's just to reflect the stereotypes, the prejudices, and take them seriously, and really try to resolve them and to understand them, basically. Yeah, that's been it.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.